IC, Equal Housing Lender.
Home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
They got him again!
Sixers.
Bang! It's good! Ball game!
And Flyers.
Tipped in front of the net!
97.3 ESPN. WENJ. WENJ HD. Millville, Atlantic City. A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hennick.
It's good!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio. Here's Josh Hennick.
Welcome back from the busy weekend. Josh Hennick here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. Glad to have you guys on board the show today. Phillies get 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals. They prepare for the return of Rhys Hoskins to the field tonight, and they had to make some changes ahead of tonight's game due to what happened last night. We'll break down all those details. What's going on with Brandon Marsh? What's going on? Who's replacing Brandon Marsh in the lineup? Get to all that. Plus, Eagles prepare for their first mandatory minicamp since 2019. What that means for the Birds, we'll get into that. Plus, you guys can join the conversation. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. All that and more this hour. Crazy weekend for sports. We saw the Stanley Cup Finals locked up Saturday night. I was with my guy, Joey. We were watching the game Saturday night after the Phillies game. It actually worked out pretty great for us because we watched the Phillies game. When the Phillies game was done, it was still the second period of the NHL game, so we flipped right over there, and we were all hanging out and watching that. So, great sports weekend. Bit of a down note, though, for the Phillies, as Brandon Marsh last night, if you're watching the game, Sunday Night Baseball, hamstring injury. And this is very interesting because there's a few different elements to this that we have to look into. So number one, here's what we know. Okay, I wrote the latest news at 973ESPN.com. And I broke it down for you guys, but I'll give it to you right here on Game Night, here on 97.3 ESPN. So, officially, the Phillies have put Brandon Marsh on the 10-day injured list with what they're calling a right hamstring strain. Now, what is relevant about this is because we already know that Trey Turner has been out since May 4th with a left hamstring injury. The original timetable for Trey Turner was 6 to 10 weeks. So the projection was that he could come back by the middle of this month, but it's looking more like maybe the end of this month or early next month for Trey Turner. If we use the same timetable, Brandon Marsh is probably not back until after the Major League Baseball All-Star game. That would be July 16th. So you're going to be without Brandon Marsh for at least a month, okay? You're going to be without him for a significant amount of time. Now, there's two ways to look at this. Number one, how is this going to affect the lineup? Well, the lineup is a lot simpler to figure out because they've already called up 2 guys who will probably get some playing time in accordance with Whit Merrifield. But how does this impact the locker room? Marsh, affectionately known as Brother Marsh, is a huge locker room guy. He is considered probably one of the staples of this current Phillies locker room. We know that historically guys who are injured don't spend as much time with the ball club. So, sure, Marsh could be hanging around the team this week, but is he really going to fly with the team to London for 2 days? Is he really going to travel with them to Boston and Baltimore if he is dealing with this injury? How does the team respond to life without Brandon Marsh in the clubhouse, in the dugout, pranking guys after games when they're on the post-game interview with Tom McCarthy and company, right? How does that impact all of this? Because you're going to see tonight Rhys Hoskins return to Philadelphia. And Hoskins was considered a big locker room guy, and people were wondering, how are they going to replace Reese Hoskins? Well, now how are you going to replace Brandon Marsh in the locker room? You can literally replace Marsh in the lineup. We'll get to that in just a second. But how are you replacing him in the lineup? How are you replacing him in the dugout, I should say? So I'm very curious to see, how does this news impact the team moving forward? Now, for those of you who haven't heard, Phillies are coming out with their lineup tonight. David Dahl, who they just called up from AAA, he is inserted into the lineup. Now, for some of you baseball junkies, you may recognize the name David Dahl. Well, Dahl was a 2019 All-Star with the Colorado Rockies. He had dealt with some injuries in recent years. Phillies brought him in as a non-roster invitee. He performed well enough in spring training that we all were wondering, does Dahl make the roster or not? Well, he was in AAA this year. He's batting .340 with 12 home runs, a 660 slugging percentage in 43 games. Just ripping the cover off the ball in AAA. So he can't be any worse than what Brandon Marsh was giving you offensively. Defensively, Marsh is probably still a better fielder than Dahl, but Dahl is a more than serviceable left-handed replacement for Marsh. Now, the original plan going into tonight was the Phillies were going to face a right-hander, but now they had to scratch their pitcher, and now they're going with Jared Koenig tonight. So we're going to get our first look for David Dahl against a left-handed pitcher day one tonight. Now, you would think he's a veteran, he should be fine. But again, that wasn't the original pitcher almost 3 hours ago when the Phillies first came out with their lineup. Remember, the whole point of Marsh's situation that we kept having discussions here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. See how the whole conversation we were having was Marsh keeps getting benched against the veteran pitchers. That's right, left-handed pitchers. You would expect Dahl is going to platoon as well. So we're going to find out very quickly tonight. Is Dave Dahl up for getting some at-bats against left-handed pitching, or is this going to have to be a strict platoon with him as well? Remember, the 2 games set in London against the Mets, Sean Manaea, Jose Quintana. 2 left-handers. The Phillies have, at minimum, in the next 5 days, 3 lefties. 2 in London, 1 tonight. We don't know what's going on with Wednesday. The Brewers haven't announced their starter for Wednesday yet. But if they are platooning Dahl like they did Brandon Marsh, then who's going to play? Well, that's where the other move the Phillies made today is going to be very interesting. Cody Clemens was also put on the injured list today. Cody Clemens was in the lineup last night with a last-minute scratch with serious enough back spasms that he has been put on the 10-day injured list as well. Called up to replace him, Cody Clemens, who, by the way, has played 3 games at second base, 2 games at third base, and 1 game at first base this year, and then 2 games in the outfield. So he has played all over the field. They call up another guy who can play multiple positions, Weston Wilson. Now, Weston Wilson leads the Lehigh Valley team at AAA in RBI, 35 and 51 games. So we know he's an impact hitter in the minor league level like Dahl has been. But this year, Whit Merrifield has gotten the majority of the playing time when they have platooned wanting an outfielder out there. The problem with Merrifield, he's not playing well. He is having basically the worst year of his career, and he's barely getting enough playing time to make up for it. you could argue maybe if he played every day, maybe he could find his way out of this slump. But the 3-time All-Star, he's batting 176 this year. And they've already just shown you today, playing Dahl instead of Merrifield, that they are not caring about Merrifield getting reps. Just after last night, Rob Thompson said Merrifield needs to get more at bats, and I feel bad for him. Now, you're going into a game with David Dahl instead of Merrifield in left, already telling this guy, yeah, you're not going to get the playing time that you need. And now you call up a guy in Weston Wilson who can play multiple positions. Weston Wilson played third base in AAA this year and shortstop. But he also could play second. He could play left field. He could play right field. How does that impact Whit Merrifield's playing time? Do they look at Merrifield and be like, hey, man, you're not hitting at all. Let's give Weston Wilson a try. You were playing Cody Clemens just last night. Merrifield only got into the lineup last night because Clemens was pulled with back spasms. So when you go to London this weekend with Sean Manaea and Jose Quintana, who's getting those starts? Is it Merrifield or Wilson? Again, we're assuming the right-handed guy is going to go against the lefties the majority of the time. Philly's got a lot of interesting lineup decisions moving forward. And I don't know if any one of these moves is going to particularly make or break this team. I mean, you look at the game last night, they didn't really necessarily lose the game because of any one person. Last night just kind of felt like a game that, it felt like a game that got away from the Phillies. At least for me, that's how it felt. Last night felt like one of those games where Philadelphia had chances to make up, right? They had chances to try to rectify the Cardinals scoring as many runs as they did against Taijuan Walker. Remember, that bullpen was lights out until extra innings. By the way, who came in the extra innings? Who? Oh yeah, the Jekyll and Hyde guy, Gregory Soto. I'm telling you guys, Soto, you don't know what you're getting with him. It's like having a roller coaster ride, not knowing where you're going. I mean, Soto, he comes in last night, he gives up a home run, and he has 2 strikeouts. What do you do with him? The last game he pitched, he walked 2 guys and struck out somebody. You never know what you're getting with this guy. It's absolutely wild that the Phillies are a team that needs their bullpen to basically hold it down. And I get it. The run wasn't earned against Soto, but he did give up 2 hits. He had some chances. He couldn't get out of it. And the Cardinals scored. But this is who Soto is. From game to game, you don't know what version of him you're getting. And when you have no strikeouts, when the game before he had a strikeout, and you're just kind of looking around being like, you just saw the Cardinals a day ago. Now, maybe should you not have brought him in 2 days in a row? I don't know. I feel like that's a hard thing to decipher, but I digress. So that's the latest with the Phillies and their lineup situation. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Jeff from Ocean City chimes in, says, hey, Josh, I'm not worried about the March injury at all. Other guys get to play and show what they can do. Phillies already have the division clinched. That's from Jeff from Ocean City. Well, I don't like to count my chickens before they're hatched, Jeff. So I will never say they got it all figured out. They got it all already. I can't do that. I can't be the guy who says they've already got it. I'm not that guy, Jeff in Ocean City. Now, I understand what you're saying, that the injury is not going to negatively impact this team, But so far, the Trey Turner one hasn't either. Edmundo Sosa has played exceptionally well, like better than anyone expected so far this year. I mean, did anyone think that Sosa would be batting .304 this year? The guy's got 4 triples and 4 homers on the year. No one expected that. So, if you get from David Dahl no worse than you got from Marsh, you should be fine. You're right. And I understand you not being worried, but when you have those nights and Castellanos doesn't hit, and then Dave Dahl doesn't hit, and then Rojas doesn't hit, the rest of the team better pick him up. Another texture coming in. Stephen Bender says Dave Dahl is a former top 10 prospect in the sport. He's earned this opportunity. Very interesting to see him in an MLB uniform again. I hope the success transfers over from the minor leagues. See, it's interesting because I am usually not the person who gives what about if someone's top 10 prospect, because baseball history is full of guys who are top 10 prospects or first round prospects, and they've done nothing at the big league level. So I can certainly see a circumstance or so that would make me feel like I can't get wrapped up in who a prospect was, right? Because again, these guys don't always work out. To me, what stands out more is that if it wasn't for the injuries, David Dahl wouldn't be here. He'd probably still be in Colorado, or he would have signed somewhere else and he'd be there starting left fielder. This guy was for 1 year a bona fide stud in Colorado, but he's been injured multiple times in his career. And if you take out his 2 seasons where he was productive and good, 2018, 2019, he only played 100 games in 2019 as well. What is he at that point if you take out those 2 years? Since he was an all-star, Dahl has only appeared in 91 games in a 3-year period. Now, part of it is COVID, part of it is injuries. But still, 100 games, you're an all-star. Over the next 3 seasons you play, 2020, 2021, miss 2022, 2023, you play 91 games. Your batting average is 199. So, Steve is right. Is what we saw in the minor leagues from Dahl going to translate to the major league level? More your text coming in. Gregory Soto is on some of your minds. Also, George from Summers Point has thoughts on Whit Merrifield. All that and more coming up here on Game Night. Josh Hennick hanging out with you. 97.3 ESPN FM. Don't forget the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Wake up weekday mornings from 6 to 10 a.m. with Unsportsmanlike on 97.3 ESPN with Evan Cohen, Super Bowl champion Chris Canty, and Michelle Small.
Can't wake up without it.
Brought to you by the Gallery Bar Book and Games at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
The seafood extraordinary, the value tremendous, the sunsets on the house. It's Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant. Dine indoors or on the deck overlooking the bay. The Phillies are always on at Yuri's. Watch the game and enjoy daily food and drink specials, including all-you-can-eat crab backed by popular demand. Yuri's is perfect for families with a kids menu and arcade. Next door to Yuri's is the Boathouse Restaurant. 2 great ways to experience the Jersey Shore's best waterfront dining. Yuri's and the Boathouse at the foot of the bridge in Wildwood.
We could try to explain what it feels like to get your work done on a John Deere. The way a Z-Track mower finishes in half the time you thought it would. Or how much easier it is to move mountains of soil with the 1 Series tractor. We could even go into detail about how it feels to tow up to 4,000 pounds behind a Gator XUV. But if you really want to know what it's like to run with us, you just have to get in the seat. Learn more at johndeere.com/get-in-the-seat or visit a dealer near you.
3,
2, 1.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
It's the third month of Matt Blatt Kia's 2 for $222. And this is the final month. 2 new Kias for $222. Brand new 2024 Kia Forte. Just $111 per month lease. With 0 security deposit and just $39.95 due at signing. With a price like that, why not get 2 for $222? Have a job clearing $450 per week? We want to approve you today. With 0 down. And pay just 1.9% for 48 months on every clearly marked new Kia Sportage in stock. Or drive home 2 Kia Fortes for $222.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, 24 Sportage, $21.65 per $1,000. Not all will qualify. Credit may affect down payment. Offers can't be combined. Go to MattBlattKiaMJ.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes through KNF. 24 months, $111 per month, 10,000 miles per year. Rebates and incentives to dealer. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and on Route 37 in Toms River.
What's that sound? That's the sound of Downy Unstoppable scent beads going into your washing machine and giving your clothes freshness that lasts all day long. There it is again. It's like music to your ears, or more like music to your nose. That freshness is irresistible. Let's get a Downy Unstoppables bottle shake. And now a sniff solo. Nice. Get 6 times longer lasting freshness plus odor protection with Downy Unstoppables in wash scent beads.
Is switching your wireless service to Total by Verizon easy?
Totalmente.
Now you can get 50% off any unlimited data phone plan. That's one line for only $25 a month, and you keep the phone you love. Hurry, this is a limited time offer. So find a store or switch suavemente at totalbyverizon.com. Offer ends July 31st, 2024. Promo subject to cancellation after 12 months. Available exclusively online and in Total by Verizon stores. Requires a compatible unlocked device and SIM. See totalbyverizon.com for device compatibility and additional details. Taxes and fees may apply.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? I think my battery's dead. With free battery testing and charging, we can help you get back on the road.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
So what if I need a new one? We have the right Duralast battery for you. Only at AutoZone.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
And what about my old battery? We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Powered by the all-new BetParks New Jersey Casino and Sportsbook app. BetParks.com. This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Hoskins is back. I'm Nick Earnshaw with your South Jersey Sports Center and your 97.3 ESPN question of the day. With former Phillies first baseman Rhys Hoskins returning back to Philadelphia tonight, we ponder, how will Rhys Hoskins' career with the Phillies be remembered? Let us know by texting 609-403-0973. That's 609-403-0973, or use the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. To me, Rhys Hoskins will be remembered in a very positive light. He was a streaky power hitter with the Phils, but when he got hot at the dish, he was unstoppable. And how can we forget the numerous postseason heroics from Hoskins in 2022? That bat spike will be entrenched in Phillies history forever. Once again, let us know by texting 609-403-0973. How will Rhys Hoskins' career with the Phillies be remembered?
Hi, honey. Happy first day back at work. Can't wait to see you tonight. We are so proud of you.
Daddy, we love you. There are many reasons to start recovery. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction, we are here to help. Call us. Our trained counselors are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help. Your recovery is within reach. Call 844-REACH-NJ to learn about medication that can support your recovery. A message from the New Jersey Department of Human Services.
Good afternoon. With your South Jersey weather forecast, I'm Joe Kelly. We could see some on and off showers and thunderstorms over the next couple of hours. Otherwise, clearing as we get into the evening tonight. A low temperature tonight expected to be about 62. Tomorrow shaping up pretty good. Mostly sunny sky expected tomorrow with a high of 75. As of right now, after today, the next chance of rain in South Jersey will probably come on Thursday. That's your South Jersey weather forecast. Have a great evening. I'm Joe Kelly.
New Jersey is leading the nation in clean energy investments with one thing in mind: you. Save money while saving the planet. New Jersey's Clean Energy Program is a statewide program that offers incentives, programs, and services that benefit New Jersey residents, businesses, education, government, and nonprofit entities to help us all save energy, money, and the environment. Discover how you can start saving today and help ensure a cleaner future. Visit njcleanenergy.com to see what New Jersey's Clean Energy Program can do for you. A message from the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Emotional, yeah, for sure. I'm kind of a crier. I'll probably cry at some point today, but I think it just tells you all you need to know about the energy and emotion that I've been able to grab from this place over the last decade. It's gonna be memorable for sure. Hopefully don't have to stop the game from crying too much.
That was Rhys Hoskins talking to the media about an hour and a half ago about his return to Philadelphia. And look, I'm no stranger to understanding what Rhys Hoskins meant to this team. I wrote a plethora of articles over the years at 97.3ESPN.com about the different eras of the Rhys Hoskins era. The first chunk of his career, he was the best power hitter on this team. So powerful. He was in the MLB home run derby. People forget that you have a guy that in his first 203 games, he had 52 homers. Think about that for a minute. That basically means that every 4 to 5 games, this dude was hitting bombs. If you stretch it out to the first 3 seasons of his career, 81 homers in 363 games. So what is that? Every 6-7 games, he's hitting a home run. The first half of his career, he was as prolific of a power hitter as anyone we have ever seen in a Phillies uniform. And then the drop-off happened. And it wasn't such a significant drop-off where we were like, oh, this guy stinks. But it was enough of a drop-off where this organization said, we need to go spend $100 million on Nick Castellanos and another $100+ million on Kyle Schwarber. And even though Hoskins went out there and gave you 30 home runs in 2022, he only had 79 RBI. And he struck out 169 times. So he went from being this elite power hitter. I told you guys, it was the first 3 years, every 6-7 at bats, a home run. He played 263 games from 2021 to 2022. He hit 57 homers in those games. That is a huge drop-off. The strikeouts went way up. The homer production went way down. But as you heard Nick Earnshaw say in our SportsCenter update today, Hoskins is famous from the biggest home runs in Phillies postseason history. The bat spike obviously is probably the most memorable one. But to me, it was more than the home runs with Hoskins. It was the fact that he was the most frustrating player on the field in 2022. Not just for the postseason, for the entire season. Hoskins had 6 home runs during that playoff run. But as memorable as the home runs were, his errors at first base were just as memorable. He became such a grotesque liability as a defender at first base. And you have to wonder what would have happened if he was not injured last year. If he did not sustain that knee injury last year, missing the entire year, what would he be? Because he was slated for the lineup last year. The lineup was supposed to be Hoskins at first or DH. And then it would be probably what? Castellanos DHing, Schwarber in left, Harper in right. Well, over time, Castellanos has proven himself to be a solid defensive player in right field. Harper has turned into a borderline Gold Glove first baseman now. And Hoskins basically was phased out of this team. So we're going to find out very quickly, not just what Rhys Hoskins is going to be. I know he's going to get sitting on base. I know he's going to get cheered and thanked. He says he's going to get emotional. But we're going to find out long term how this organization pivots. Because remember, as I said, they brought in Schwarber and Castellanos in part because of Hoskins' struggles near the end. The poor defense at first base. The high number of strikeouts. Again, I can't under talk about the strikeouts because he was averaging about a strikeout per game during his first 3 seasons in Major League Baseball. His last 2 seasons in Philadelphia, he was averaging more than a strikeout per game. And a guy who his last 2 years in Philadelphia was averaging a walk every other game. His first 3 years in Philadelphia, his walks were a huge asset where he was walking at a much higher rate than he was near the end of his career. That was why he was batting second so much, because the team was like, this guy's got a really good eye at the plate. So I'm not saying this to diminish Hoskins or say I'm not happy he's back or I'm not happy for him or all this stuff. But I'm just trying to bring context to the fact that his first 3 years in Philadelphia, he was a bona fide power hitter, a productive power hitter in this lineup. His last 2 years, he became a grotesque defensive liability who, if he was a better hitter in the regular season, maybe you don't give Castellanos $100 million, and maybe we're not suffering with him now. Now, of course, a lot of what ifs, because if Harper still gets injured, does Harper become DH? Does Harper go to first base? You ask Hoskins to play the outfield? I don't know how that works. I mean, Hoskins certainly wasn't a great outfielder either. So, it's interesting the trajectory of guys' careers and how they play out. It's just and now you see Hoskins having a solid, good year with the Brewers. The batting average isn't great, but he's got a good on-base percentage. The walks are slowly coming back. Strikeouts are still low, right? But 9 homers in 40 games, that sounds like the Hoskins that Philly fans are familiar with from his first 3 years. Strikeouts, 35 in 40 games. Not exactly a strikeout a game, but still a little high. But the on-base percentage is back. Again, that was his calling card. His first 3 years, his on-base percentage was .364. And the guy was averaging a home run every 6 games his first 3 years. So he was a great hitter. I want to say great. He was a very good hitter. Okay. He was a guy that you could look at and say, I'm comfortable putting him in the lineup. And I'm happy to see him doing well with the Brewers. And the Brewers are a first place team. That's another side of this conversation. You got a 3-game set against the leader of the National League Central. How do you respond this week? Wheeler, Sanchez, Nola. 3 of your 4 best pitchers going in this series. No Ranger Suarez till Saturday. Oh, I think it's a good idea, by the way. I think Suarez can use a couple extra days off. I think that he is not used to pitching this many games, this many innings early in the season. I think that giving Suarez pushing him back is only going to help him. It's only going to help Sanchez. And Wheeler and Nola might not be fans of the extra days off, but I think it'll benefit them long-term in the season as well, because these guys are putting up great numbers, a lot of innings, the best starting pitcher ERA in all of baseball. I suspect that this gap of games, remember, no games Thursday, Friday this week, no game on Monday. That's 3 extra days off in the schedule. I think it'll benefit the pitching staff long term. Over on the text board, texter from Delaware didn't leave their name, but they chimed in at 609-403-0973. He says, every time Soto comes in, I cringe. It's never a clean inning with this guy. And look, this is the side effect of today's style of baseball. Today in Major League Baseball, you don't have clean innings as often as you did 15, 20, 25 years ago. The good bullpens are not always going to be clean innings. And I think that that's the problem. I would give the texter credit, but he didn't leave his name, but I know he's from Delaware because I see the phone number on the text board. But I'll just call you Mr. 302. Mr. 302, it's a very good point. This is why I call Soto a bit of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, because he is a player who has shown himself to be very good in certain situations, but other games, as you said, no clean innings. You can never relax when Soto comes in the game. Soto came in very good. Not very good. He was good. I'm really embellishing it there. He was good on Saturday night. He wasn't as good on Sunday night. Should you have pitched him 2 straight days? Maybe not. But considering that the bullpen had pitched so well up to that point, Hoffman, Kerkering, Alvarado, Hoffman, who else were you going to go to in that situation? Seriously, who else were you supposed to go to? I don't think that would have been a right answer. I don't think that Dominguez would have been a much better option than Soto was last night. Ruiz, who else are you putting in that situation? I think that's the problem in a game like last night. I think a game like that, if we're being fair and we're being rational, we're not overreacting to last night's game. Extra inning losses happen. If you take 2 out of 3 against the Brewers, you're still sitting pretty golden. George from Summers Point chimes in at 609-403-0973. He says, hey, Josh, sounds like the Phillies do not value Merrifield at all, and he may be trade bait at the deadline as far as trade deadline goes. Would your first desire be an outfielder to fill the holes or a reliever to start the bullpen? That's from George in Summers Point. Well, George, that's 2 different things. One, I don't know if they don't value Merrifield, but I think they look at Merrifield as a guy who he's not playing well. And if you have a guy who's not playing well, you have no reason to put him in the lineup, And the problem there's 2 problems with the deadline right now. One problem is there's no obvious guy out there that makes sense. There's no Jeff Conine out there where you could be like, right-handed hitter, can play the outfield, maybe a little first base. That guy doesn't exist right now. The other problem with the deadline is because of the expanded wild card, it's going to get harder to rationalize what teams are in or not in the wild card hunt. Because you look at a team like Detroit Lions. I'm thinking football right now. What is it? 90 days till football season's back. The NFL at least. The Detroit Tigers. They're 4 games out of the wild card. You're a team like the Tigers, and let's say you win 12 out of your next 18 games. You slice that to maybe 2 or 1 games, as long as the Royals or Twins slip up a little bit. And they got 2 guys, Matt Vierling and Matt Canna. 2 guys who would certainly make a lot of sense for the Phillies right now. Right-handed bats, can play the outfield, productive hitters. But the Tigers look around and are like, well, we're still in this thing. if you're the Tigers, what reason do you have to trade a Vierling or a Canna if you are still 3 to 4 games out of the wild card when we get to the deadline? And this is the predicament that we are in right now in baseball. All of these teams look at the standings and can rationalize, aside from the White Sox and the Angels and the Oakland A's, you can rationalize, we still have a chance, boys. We're still in this. Teams like the Tigers and the Rangers are 4 games out, and they're both plus in the run differential. The Rays are a strange team right now because I'm watching that game between them and the Orioles yesterday. They feel like a team that just doesn't have their lineup together. I don't know what their deal is. It feels like their lineup is just underperforming extremely, or their pitching staff is just not pitching as well as they should be. I don't know what it is. The Astros, they're worse than we thought. There's rumors that Toronto is going to try to sell, but the problem with Toronto is half the guys that they would trade play positions that you don't need. You don't need first base. You don't need second base or shortstop or third base. You need outfield. And George Springer is an everyday player. And I don't see the Blue Jays being like, yeah, sure, we'll take Castellanos off your hands so you could have George Springer. I don't see that happen anytime soon. So the problem is that you either have some of these teams that think that they're still in it, like the Tigers, right? And you have other teams that I don't know who they would give up. Now, somebody mentioned last week on the text board, and I can't remember who texted it in, but Dalton Varsho, right? Dalton Varsho is a guy who could play catcher and outfield for you if you trade him for the Blue Jays. Well, the concern I have with Varsho is he still bats left-handed. It doesn't solve the right-handed bat that you need. So he would qualify as a guy that makes sense. But for whatever it's worth, Garrett Stubbs seems to be a valuable enough guy in that locker room that you're not giving up on him. And as I said, I don't see the Blue. Now, George Springer's not having a good year. I understand that. He's not having a great year, but he's a very good defensive player still, and he's a guy with a lot of potential. Would you be willing to try to coerce the Blue Jays into saying, look, your guy's not playing well, our guy's not playing well, let's do a swap? I don't know if that's the answer either. I mean, Springer's older than Castellanos, but he's a better defensive player, right? Castellanos is an every other year guy. I feel like you're more likely to get rid of Castellanos in the offseason than at the deadline. So again, I think the problem, George Summer's point, the problem is for the deadline, the trade for an outfielder is that you're going to have to find a team that is thoroughly out of it. In the National League, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You got 6 teams within 3 games of the final wild card spot in the National League. In the American League, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 6 teams within 4 games of the wild card spot in the American League. We're going to have to find out a lot about who these teams are when we get closer to the deadline, because as of right now, it's not looking good. And the reason why I keep going to the outfield and not the pitching staff, George Summer's point, is because former MLB general manager and CBS Sports Baseball insider Jim Bowden said this a couple days ago on his podcast.
I've had 3 GMs tell me this week that the Phillies' number one priority is outfield, and they really haven't been talking to teams about bullpen. Now, I won't be surprised if they had a bullpen arm. I won't be surprised if every contender has a bullpen arm. But they've been out there looking for an outfield help. So, I don't think they're getting the offensive production they were hoping for in center field. I don't think they're getting the offensive production they're getting overall. But that's what they've been looking for.
So I think that answers your question, Jordan Hunter's point. The Phillies are a team that is going to go get an outfielder. Now, what kind of outfielder? I think it's got to be a right-handed guy. And to your point, is Merrifield trade bait? I don't know if it's trade bait as much a guy that, maybe you can convince a team to take him because maybe that's the thing. Can you convince a team that is close enough in the race that you could be like, hey, man, maybe you have a guy who's not playing great, but you need a guy who can play shortstop, second base every day. That's why I mentioned a team like the Tigers. Javi Baez is their shortstop. Colt Keith is their second baseman. Neither one of them is playing well. Gio Urshela is playing good, not great. So their infield needs some help. But would they be willing to part with one of their productive hitters so you can get rid of Merrifield? Like, do you have to give up one of your prospects, for example? I keep looking at Matt Canna because he's a right-handed hitter. Not having a great year, but he's a good player. Could you get Canna and have to unload what else? So I think that's where we're going to be at the deadline. I think we're going to be at, how do we convince another team to take someone that we got to make a roster spot for somebody, right? And if you're going to trade Merrifield, that's the only way I can think of. And as I said with Castellanos, my working assumption is you are going to see Castellanos here for the rest of the season. And then you're going to go into the offseason and you can maybe call a few teams and say, look, you go through Castellanos' history. He's good every other year. 2021, 2023. Right? That's who Castellanos is. He's an every other year guy. Maybe you call a team in the American League like the Rays or a National League team like the Rockies. Maybe a team that's got a hitter-friendly stadium. I mean, I don't think there's an obvious team, but I mean, somebody who could use a right-handed bat in the outfield, and you try to basically take Castellanos and a prospect, dump them on them, and take somebody else's discarded goods. Like I said about Toronto, George Springer's an older player. You convince a team like that, we'll take your old guy, you take our inconsistent guy. You know what I mean? And then you're hoping that George Springer is like the next Raul Ibanez kind of deal, right? You look at a team like the Houston Astros. They're struggling this year, but they're probably not going to be, dumping guys at the deadline. Their biggest problem, honestly, is their pitching. It's not as much their hitting because their hitters are actually doing pretty good. But could they be a team that could need a right field, outfield bat down the road, right? How do you convince a team like that to unload your guys? You can get somebody else. It's easier said than done. All right, more text to get to you on the other side. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. By the way, 3 up and 3 down for Zach Wheeler at the top of the first inning. We're in the bottom of the first. The Phillies are facing Jared Koenig as he has already got 2 outs against the Phillies. Looks like it's 3 up, 3 down for the Phils against Koenig. As Phillies a little bit too excited to swing the back there. They were swinging first pitch a couple of those at bats. No bueno, senor. All right, back with more Game Night. Josh and Nick hanging out with you. More your text coming up on 97.3 ESPN.
Drive. Hey, it's Q, Murr, and Sal from Impractical Jokers, and we are thrilled to announce our brand new Drive tour.
True TV and Practical Jokers, the Drive Tour, starring Q, Murr, and Sal. Saturday, July 13th, Ovation Hall and Ocean Casino Resort. On sale now at theoceanac.com. 16 years of age or older suggested to attend.
Drive.
With Memorial Day savings at the Home Depot, you can upgrade your home with up to $2,400 off select kitchen packages from top brands like Maytag. Enhance your kitchen with the exclusive Maytag French door refrigerator and fingerprint-resistant stainless steel, only at the Home Depot. And with dual power filtration on the Maytag Tall Tub dishwasher, you can skip soaking and scrubbing. Right now, get Memorial Day savings up to $2,400 off select kitchen packages at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Pricing valid May 16th through June 5th. U.S. only. See store or online for details.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you. Discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. HIMS.com/JOY.
Do you have a job? Do you have $199? Do you want a brand new Nissan?
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Stuck in a loan or lease? AJ the Trademan can get you released, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Then drive home in your new Nissan Altima S or Sentra SV for only $199 per month lease with zero security deposit and only $29.99 due. That's a brand new 24 Nissan Altima S or Sentra SV that gets up to 39 miles per gallon for only $199 per month. And don't forget the Matt Blatt Nissan Peace of Mind 4-day love it or leave it return policy only at Matt Blatt Nissan.com. On approved Tier 1 credit through NEMAC. Negative equity will be refinanced into new vehicle plus tax tag and $589 fee. Offers can't be combined. Call 877-289-6670 or go to mattblattnissan.com for complete details. VIN RY229097 and RN330138. Sentra. Lease selling price $25,509. Ultimate lease selling price $27,829. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township.
Hey, pet parents. With Progressive's collision coverage, you get extra protection for your cat or dog because there's nothing worse than seeing your pet hurt. Like when you see their face after accidentally stepping on their tail, and you say, "I'm so sorry, Mr. Pickles." But as you kiss his nose and rub his little belly welly, you know Mr. Pickles is thinking, "You betrayed me." Anywho, Progressive pays up to $1,000 in vet bills if your pet is injured in an auto accident. Learn more at Progressive.com and watch where you step. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Collision coverage subject to policy terms. Not available in all states.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Diego.
Hi, Diego. It's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to say your cashback match makes me feel so special. It really inspired me.
That's great. Doubling the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year is what we do.
Well, I'm doubling everything now. Double dating, double dipping, double feature, double header, double whammy. Basically double or nothing.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
Gotta change my oil.
How about new Valvoline Restore and Protect? It restores and protects your engine to run like new.
Get in the zone.
It restores your engine to factory clean?
And protects.
Get in the zone.
So Valvoline Restore and Protect restores and protects.
Now you can get 5 quarts with an STP extended life oil filter for $37.99.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
The seafood, extraordinary. The value, tremendous. The sunsets, on the house. It's Yuri's Waterfront Restaurant. Dine indoors or on the deck overlooking the bay. The Phillies are always on at Yuri's. Watch the game and enjoy daily food and drink specials, including all-you-can-eat crab backed by popular demand. Yuri's is perfect for families with a kids menu and arcade. Next door to Yuri's is the Boathouse Restaurant. 2 great ways to experience the Jersey Shore's best waterfront dining. Yuri's and the Boathouse at the foot of the bridge in Wildwood.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennick on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
So they just announced Rhys Hoskins at the ball game, and this is a good 30 seconds. Standing ovation. Hoskins saluted the crowd. He's trying to get his emotions together right now. He's trying to keep it together. You can tell his face is a little flush. He's having to walk around a little bit. Now he's talking to JT Realmuto. So Great moment there for Rhys Hoskins. Philly fans, well-deserved, giving him the recognition that he deserves. Now we'll see if Wheeler strikes him out or not. So that's your little update on Hoskins there. First pitch of the strike. Wheeler just kind of dropped it in there, a little sweeper action around the corner there. So, yeah, well, I think Hoskins is, Tom McCarthy said it as I was listening to the broadcast. Hoskins is going to get a lot of love this week, just because of everything he did with the organization. So, definitely well-deserved. A couple more texts coming in before we get out of here. I want to get to Chris from Millville chimes in and says the only way to deal with Castellanos is by taking a similar big contract with underperformance. Yeah, like I said, it's the idea that you take my underwhelming player, I'll take your underwhelming player, and we'll all be happy, right? Stephen Ventnor follows up and says, a guy I would look at is Miles Straw of the Indians. He says because he's being paid $7 million. I guess Straw is an option. Straw is a guy who could play multiple positions. I think that's where the value is. I think if there was a way that you could get rid of Merrifield and get Miles Straw, I think I would be open to that. I know, Steve, you mentioned the idea of, maybe giving up some of the older prospects, like the Simone Musiatis, the Samuel Algaris, guys like that. I think that's a very reasonable idea. And I think that is probably where they want to go. I think Philadelphia might want somebody better than Miles Straw. I'm not saying Miles Straw is a bad player. Don't get me wrong. But I think that he's a guy who, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see if Philadelphia goes, big or small at the deadline. It also depends how long Marsh is out, too. They got an impact on this. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Have a great, everybody.
You have the choice, whether it's going out to dinner.
All right, those watching on the YouTube channel at Josh Hennig on YouTube, like, subscribe, share with your friends. I want to do a follow-up because this is not a topic that the 97.3 ESPN audience in South Jersey and Atlantic City maybe cares about as much. But I talked about this Friday, and I want to follow up my conversation about Caitlin Clark because the Caitlin Clark situation got worse over the weekend. Okay, for those who didn't see, or maybe you only heard about on social media, Caitlin Clark got decked over the weekend. Okay. Kenita Kennedy, who plays in the WNBA, who has a bit of a history, shall we call it, of she has a bit of a history of being a very, very rough player. She literally went up to Caitlin Clark over the weekend and just slammed her to the floor. And we are now approaching a situation where, Chinita Carter. See, this is the problem. She's such an insignificant player that I couldn't even get her name right. And this is where it's frustrating because, Kennedy Carter, Chinita Carter, Kennedy Carter, whatever on earth her name is, right? This young lady just goes up to Clark, curses at her, and then shoves her to the floor. I don't care that this is part of the Chicago Sky's way of playing the game. And the head coach says, we're a physical team. And we talked to her and said, maybe you took it too far. We need to, what did she say? We need to supply better leadership. This is a bunch of horse manure, okay? There's two huge problems going on with Caitlin Clark right now. Number one, these women who are playing against her, they're jealous, They're resentful. And they look at her as like she's stealing something from them. When if these women were as good of players as she was, then guess what? You wouldn't have this problem. The reason why Caitlin Clark is a megastar is because Caitlin Clark earned it. She's the all-time leading scorer in college basketball history, men or women, black or white. All time. She broke a record that seemed unbreakable by Pete Maravich. And this woman, Miss Carter, we'll call her, okay? She didn't just bump Caitlin Clark. She slammed her to the floor. And this comes a couple days after Caitlin Clark was assessed a technical because she was having some trash talk and a Seattle Storm player got in her face. I don't understand why the only thing that happened was a technical foul for Kennedy Carter. Now, it's bad enough that this is another no-name player going after Caitlin Clark. But I've heard multiple NBA players say this. Where are the women on Clark's team defending her? The Indiana Fever organization is going to get this young woman hurt because they are too much wimps to defend their megastar. I've heard guys like Matt Barnes talk about this, guys like John Sally talk about this, and other former NBA players. Where's the woman on Caitlin Clark's team stepping up to defend her? Where's the woman on Caitlin Clark's team that goes out and shoves Carter after they hit Clark? We have not seen Caitlin Clark defended one time by her teammates, which goes to tell me that if as Coach Witherspoon, what's her name? Teresa Witherspoon, head coach of the Chicago Sky, if she's coming out here and saying, oh, we're tough, we play hard. You got women like Breanna Stewart who are saying this is a physical league. Women like Diana Taurasi saying, the physicality and the speed at this level is different. Well, if all those things are true and we're seeing all that play out in real time, why does Indiana have an enforcer? Why does Indiana have someone to protect Caitlin Clark? Someone to stand up for the superstar? That's how it's always been in sports. I don't know why women's sports has to be any different. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. If you are the best player on your team and another person is getting overly unnecessarily physical with my player, someone's got to step up and say enough is enough. We've seen it in baseball, basketball, football, hockey. I heard Shannon Sharp talk about this on First Take this morning about how in the NFL, if you would have gone after one of his guys, retribution is coming. In baseball, we've seen it for decades. You hit the other team's star player, we hit your star player. In hockey, you injure my star player, I injure you. The eye for an eye concept, by the way, it's from the Bible. That's why people got that from originally from. And it's taken out of context sometimes, but still, this idea is old. So, I don't care what has to be done. If the Indiana Fever care about their player, they're going to make a trade immediately, and they're going to acquire somebody just to throw elbows. Because in the NBA, what did the Chicago Bulls have to do for Michael Jordan? They had to go out and get guys like Charles Oakley. They had to go out and get guys like Dennis Rodman. Look at a guy like Shaq and Kobe. You know who they had? They had guys like Robert Horry on their team. Derek Fisher on their team. Name any great star player in basketball history in the men's game. The star players always had someone to protect them, someone who's willing to throw hands. All the great teams with the great players have it. And if we are going to be equal opportunity and treat men like we do women, then it's not okay for Caitlin Clark to be elbowed and shoved and punched and screamed at and cussed out all the time. They got to get their own person to bark back. At the Indiana Fever don't. This young woman, the golden goose of the WNBA, the woman who has brought in record ratings, record attendance, record attention, just changing the dynamics of the game as a whole. As I said on Friday, she is like Tiger Woods was the golf. Just because she doesn't look like and act like everyone else doesn't mean that she's not changing the game for the good. And just like the golfers on the PGA Tour had to accept that Tiger was making their worlds and their lives better, people have to accept Caitlin Clark is doing the same. And at the Indiana Fever, don't bring in someone who is going to defend Caitlin Clark when the referees won't do their job more aggressively, more fairly, more honestly. Sports for over 120 years has been doing this. This goes back to baseball in the 1800s, football since the 1920s, basketball in the NBA since the 1950s, hockey since the 1920s as well. Men's sports have been defending the star players for decades. It's about time that the women take a chapter out of the men's book. Caitlin Clark needs her own Charles Oakley. You need to defend the star player. You know, LeBron James, him, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh in Miami. You know who they had? Udonis Haslem. LeBron's first go around in Cleveland, he had guys like Zildrunas Ilgauskas. Every team needs that player that's a little on the edge. Gretzky had people defending him his entire career in the NHL. So did Mario Lemieux. You think the only reason why Evander Kane is on the Edmonton Oilers today is because he's a talented player? No, it's not. It's because if someone in the Stanley Cup Finals goes headhunting on Connor McDavid, Evander Kane, he's got that little bit of crazy, in a good way, that'll defend his teammate. That's the problem with the Caitlin Clark situation. And I hate the fact that I have to be the voice of reason on this here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. I am not a fan of the idea that I got to be the one because these idiots on shows like Get Up and First Take on ESPN, shows like Undisputed, with that fraud Skip Bayless and, you know, all these people on these different platforms, they like to do a lot of this. But they're not talking with reason. They're talking for ratings. It drives me nuts. I'm telling you right now. And I applaud the people who are trying to speak reason out there. But people got to grow up. Because at some point, you got to take care of the woman who's bringing the attention, or we're going to keep talking negatively about the sport. We should be applauding all the women in the WNBA. Instead, we're talking about how the women WNBA aren't taking care of their own. At Josh Hennig on Twitter X. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. Subscribe, share it with your friends. Like, subscribe. Josh Hennig here on YouTube. I'll be back tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN FM and as well right here on my YouTube channel. Have a great night, everybody.